Before we crossed the Atlantic, I had spent surprisingly little time thinking about the Caribbean. Not because I wasn't interested, quite the opposite. Somehow, I had already filed it away in my mind. Whenever I thought of the Caribbean, I pictured beachfront resorts, cruise ships, charter catamarans, and the kind of white sandy beaches you find in almost every travel brochure. Of course, I knew it had to be beautiful, but somehow I never felt it was a place that would truly fascinate me. Maybe you know that feeling. We form opinions about places we have never actually been to, not on purpose, but simply because we are shown the same images over and over again. It wasn't until we were sailing from island to island ourselves that I realized just how one-sided my picture of the Caribbean had really been. It's hard to believe how much was destroyed here. Damaged boats are everywhere, and many homes still bear the scars of Hurricane Beryl. It's simply heartbreaking to see. After spending a few days exploring the northern part of Carriacou, we slowly made our way back to Tyrrell Bay. We topped up our water tanks one last time, cleared out of Grenada, and set sail for Union Island. The wind was on our side. With a steady 20 knots, we powered upwind, playing with the sails, experimenting with different trim settings, and simply enjoying the way Mohea responded to every small adjustment.
Wir kommen mega gut voran. Wir fahren zwischen 5 und 6 Knoten, manchmal auch über 6 Knoten. Gasts bis 24, Wind so 17 bis 20 Knoten. Läuft.
After arriving, we dropped anchor off Frigate Island and took the dinghy ashore to Ashton. From there, a local maxi taxi brought us to Clifton, where we cleared into St. Vincent and the Grenadines and stocked up on a few essentials. Along the coast, countless homes had been damaged or destroyed. Large stretches of mangroves were gone, and even the hills still looked bare. A local man told us about the night Hurricane Beryl swept across the island. I can't remember every word he said anymore, but I still remember his eyes. They carried fear, helplessness, and sadness, yet at the same time a quiet strength that's hard to put into words. And despite everything, people were still laughing, especially on the islands that had been hit the hardest. We were met with a warmth and kindness that deeply moved me. Maybe because they know better than most how quickly life can change. Wherever we went, people waved, offered help, and welcomed us with genuine smiles. Looking back, I think that touched me more than anything else during our time in the Caribbean. And yes, there's one more thing I wanted to tell you. Spotted eagle rays keep launching themselves out of the water all around us. Now that I know what's making those huge splashes, I can't help but smile every time I see one. Last night I kept hearing those loud smacks echoing across the bay, again and again. I spent ages wondering what on earth was making that sound. Eagle rays would have been the last thing I would have guessed. Yesterday we actually wanted to go kitesurfing. But by the time we had dug out all the gear out of the lockers, the wind had already disappeared. So we swapped the kite gear for masks and snorkels instead. The moment we got into the water, I spotted a huge eagle ray just gliding silently beneath us. With its white spots and broad wing-like fins, it moved so effortlessly that it almost seemed to float through the water. Later, back on board, one suddenly launched itself into the air. And then another one. As one of them leaped clear of the water again, I caught a brief glimpse of its face. Maybe it was just my imagination, but it honestly looked as if it was having the time of its life. Almost like it was grinning as it flew through the air. Interestingly, no one really knows for sure why eagle rays jump. Scientists believe they might be trying to shake off parasites, communicate with one another, or even attract a mate. Or maybe there's another reason we simply haven't discovered yet. Personally, I like to think they're just having fun.
Ich habe Bachen. Das sieht mega nice aus. Und Babka mit Schokolade.
static screaming in the dead of night. A preacher's voice turns wrong from right. The sky's on fire, the ashes fall.
Nachher die ganze Zeit recht grosse Wasserschicke mit dem Schiff auf und dann kann man so. Du kannst es besser machen, nur du. Ganz schön fest, wenn es Luft holen. Jetzt ist es wieder Luft und dann sind es wieder grün. Aber sie sind immer viel schnell, dass ich es gar nicht aufnehmen kann. Ja, das ist lustig.
A few days later, we finally set off for Tobago Cays. I had heard about this place countless times. For many sailors, these little islands are one of the absolute highlights of the Southern Caribbean. The only problem we faced was the wind. It was blowing straight on the nose. Instead of spending hours tacking our way through the reefs and shallow water, we decided to motor instead, slowly making our way north against the wind and the current. As we continued towards the Tobago Cays, Palm Island slowly drifted past on our starboard side. A small private island lined with palm trees, white sandy beaches, and a luxury resort. It looked exactly like the Caribbean I had always imagined. And that made me smile. Because, if I'm honest, this was the picture I had carried in my head all along. The image most of us probably have somewhere in the back of our minds. Turquoise waters, palm trees, little beachfront bungalows. And the feeling that paradise is waiting just around the next headland. And yes, all of that exists. It would be completely wrong to say the Caribbean isn't breathtakingly beautiful. Quite the opposite. It's probably one of the most stunning places I've ever traveled to. But it's so much more than that. Over the past few weeks, we had sailed between islands still bearing the scars of Hurricane Beryl. We had paddled through mangroves reduced to lifeless skeletons, seen boats left broken by the storm, and met people who welcomed us with a kindness that touched me deeply despite everything they had been through. And somewhere along the way, I realized how little of the Caribbean I had actually known. It's not that anyone is trying to devise us. Travel brochures are meant to make us dream. Hotels naturally show their best side. And let's be honest, most of us would probably point our cameras at the sunset rather than the construction site next door. But after a while, you begin to realize that every place is so much bigger than the images we associate with it. You stop seeing it through someone else's lens and start seeing it with your own eyes. And that's when you discover that a place can be breathtakingly beautiful and deeply complex at the same time, without one taking anything away from the other. The longer we travel, the more often I catch myself thinking about that. How many opinions do we form without ever experience something for ourselves? How many places do we think we know simply because we have seen the images over and over again?
The radio dies with a final sigh, and we sit in silence under splintered sky.